Here's a riddle for you. The party goes up to an NPC. This NPC has an extremely valuable item, and the party or a player decides to take an immoral or otherwise evil action to take it. Some time passes, and a horrible misfortune befalls the player that took the item from the innocent NPC. And miraculously, no one in the group is surprised that this happened. As a matter of fact, they knew it was going to happen. Yet none of them discussed it either with each other or the DM before, during, or after the event occurred. How did they know this was going to happen? When taking in any kind of art, we assign it some sense of logic or context that exists outside of the realm of normalcy. For example, in action movies, it is generally understood that unless someone dies on screen, they are probably going to come back later. Or if you are playing an RPG, that the more deadly encounters that you persevere through and that you get through, the stronger your character will become, regardless of the injuries that are sustained during those fights. These kinds of expectations are universally shared by those that are familiar with the mediums that they exist in. And this is because of a concept and system that we have been using for thousands of years to better experience art. And that is the concept of genre. Genre is incredibly useful because it allows audiences and participants to better understand necessary context without having an artist's professor or some other authority figure explain it to them each time they experience a creation. You see a bunch of droopy shapes on a canvas that is supposed to mean something? That's abstract art. You read about wizards and fireballs in a whimsical and magical place? That's high fantasy. You see a man holding a boombox above his head confessing his love to some girl in the rain? That's trash. Genre is extremely useful in all mediums of artistic creation, especially interactive ones like D&D, because it gives general guidance to players. It's how we determine how to best bring forward the themes that players are really excited to experience. For example, if you're playing in the grimdark universe of Warhammer 40k, and you have a player that wants to bring about universal peace and love, bro, anyone that has played more than 5 minutes on that universe knows exactly how that will go. Not well. In D&D, the traditional genre is heroic fantasy, so it is expected that you are extraordinary heroes, that you are main characters, that you have the power to overcome any challenge. So if I were to, say, throw a monster or creature that was literally impossible to kill, or didn't use hit points, or was otherwise just invulnerable and there was no way to defeat it, you get the idea. You would generally get some negative responses from players, most likely, because that goes directly against the sense of internal logic that comes with the genre of high fantasy. Oftentimes, artists will make a piece of art with the assumption that the audience going into it will already be generally familiar with some kind of trope or genre-specific sense of logic. For example, if you go into a high fantasy setting, it is assumed that you aren't going to lose your shit when the laws of physics go out the window and people start casting spells. This expectation brings an unfortunate big downside, and that is that it requires players to already be familiar with the genre in order to work effectively. So when you tell your players that you are going to be running a game in a specific style or genre, and even one player is not familiar with that style or genre, that implied sense of logic basically goes straight out the window and becomes useless.
Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5?
For example, I ran a Call of Cthulhu game for a couple of my D&D groups, and I really pushed it to be a normal thing. I love that system with a passion, but when I ran it, some things were consistently not exactly clicking. And this was partially due because of my inexperience with the game system itself, but also in no small part because I was often the only person at the table that was actually intimately familiar with the genre of cosmic horror. Unlike D&D, characters in Call of Cthulhu oftentimes aren't meant to overcome the evils that they face. They're just meant to interact with it in interesting ways. For example, if you see a gigantic squid monster in D&D, you take out your longswords and you charge it head on, and by the end of the encounter, you generally kill the thing, get your experience, and move on with your adventure. But in Call of Cthulhu, you see a gigantic squid monster, you oftentimes lose your mind, and characters in some extremely vague or graphic way just by interacting with the evil itself. Also, brief side note to all you GMs and players out there that run games that are specifically destructive towards genre. You know the ones where basically you come across a princess in a tower and rather than going to save her, you join the evil wizard and burn down the village because it's chaotic and that's fun. Your fun is valid, but that's not what we're talking about here. Anyway, back to it. When players have a awareness and understanding of the genres that they are playing in, they can have an almost prophetic awareness of what is going on, as well as a better understanding of the logic that occurs within that genre's system and world. For example, if you are playing in heroic fantasy and your character is extremely evil, it is generally understood that that character is not going to have a positive fate. And when you go in with that expectation, you can lean into it and know what you are getting out of the experience without having someone pull the rug out from under you. Because if you are playing an evil character and you're expecting to be rewarded for your evil deeds while you were playing it in a heroic fantasy game, that's not gonna happen. Tough luck. So in short, genre is incredibly useful to have at your tables and can lead to a better sense of community and collaborative storytelling, because anyone that is familiar with the genre can have a better understanding of the things that they are going to be rewarded for and the way that certain themes are going to play out in the games that you are experiencing. So next time you pitch a game to someone, make sure that everyone is on the same page about what the genre means for them. And if even one person is unfamiliar with that genre, really take the time either in-game to establish the internal logic that occurs within the genre, or maybe watch a movie together to get them a better idea of the kind of things that they are going to be experiencing. And if you do all that, your game will be better for it. And that's it. That's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you agree with anything I've said, disagree, put it down in the comments down below. As of right now, I read every single one. And hope you have a wonderful day. You're all fucking awesome. Cheers.